Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars lore video. Now, before we start, today's video will contain some spoilers from the recently released Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising novel. That is a hell of a title. But yeah, today's video will have some minor spoilers, mostly about world building, nothing that would bother me, but if you want to go into the book completely fresh, I recommend that you avoid this video and come back later. Alright, so we've done several videos about why the Star Wars galaxy has a large portion of space which is relatively unexplored, also known as the unknown regions. Today's video deals specifically with Star Wars canon, and that's important to note because both canon and Legends have taken a different approach to naming the galaxy. In Star Wars Legends, the unknown regions was basically a catch-all term for anywhere that hadn't been fully explored or mapped, whereas Star Wars canon now defines the unknown regions as a specific region of space in the western quadrant of the galaxy. So despite their differences, both canon and Legends have made navigation in this portion of space difficult. I've covered why in various videos in the past, but really the unknown regions has always been an area of mystery, danger, and strangeness. When it comes to navigation, Star Wars canon has actually focused specifically on the physical difficulty of plotting hyperspace jumps. In Legends, the difficulty navigating really came down to just the lack of mapped hyperspace routes. That does continue to be an issue in Star Wars canon, but there's also more. Let me read a brief excerpt from Chaos Rising. The Chiss Ascendancy was an island of calm amid the twisted hyperspace lanes in the ever-changing pathways that slowed travel and stunted shade for all those who lived out in the chaos. Chaos being the Chiss word for the unknown regions. The chaos hadn't always been that way, or so the legends went. Once at the dawn of space travel, it had been no more difficult to move between any of the stars than it now was to travel in the Ascendancy. But then, millennia ago, a series of chained supernova explosions throughout the region had sent huge masses tumbling at high speeds between the stars, some of them demolishing asteroids or whole worlds, others sparking more supernovas with their near light speed impact. The movement of all those masses, coupled with regions of heavy electromagnetic flux, resulted in constantly changing hyperlanes that made any voyage longer than a couple of star systems difficult and dangerous. So to summarize, because that is a bit out of context, well, the Chiss and the Chiss Ascendancy are positioned in a relatively stable portion of the unknown regions. Pretty much all of the surrounding area, which they appropriately call chaos, is almost impossible to navigate just because of a series of stellar events and ongoing instability, and it's this chaos which helps the Chiss live a relatively independent and protected life. Travel within the chaos or the unknown regions, however, is not impossible. One thing you can do is take a large series of very short jumps, basically move point to point across the region incredibly slowly, but this is not practical. Not only do you actually have to leave hyperspace, but you have to constantly recalculate routes, and it's just really not preferable, especially if you need to coordinate a military strike or trade goods or whatever else. So, the beings of the unknown region have actually created a new method of traveling the unknown regions, one which uses the Force. So previously we've learned about Chiss Skywalkers, and the term Skywalker is not a reference to the Skywalker family, it's just a strange coincidence. The Chiss do not use terms like the Force, rather their navigators use what's known as second sight. Second sight almost always manifests in young girls who grow out of it, usually by the age of 14 or 15. However, those who are gifted are typically assigned to a starship, and for long travel outside of the Ascendancy, they will basically pilot a ship through hyperspace while using the Force, something we saw Darth Vader do when required. They basically just close themselves off to everything but the Force and use it to navigate through the dangers of hyperspace, including mass shadows caused by real objects, safely. However, we've learned now in Chaos Rising that it's not just the Chiss who employ the Force as an aid to navigation in the unknown regions. Specifically, we've also now been introduced to the Navigators Guild, which provides Force-sensitive navigators, sometimes called Chaos Guides, to whoever needs them. And these navigators are clearly using the Force, although they're not referring to it as second sight or the Force. Rather, one that we meet in the book refers to it as the Great Presence. Here's another excerpt. worked. As usual, the Great Presence was miserly with its wisdom and insights, making for a somewhat slower trip than Kiori would have liked. Fortunately, this part of the chaos was relatively smooth, with only a few of the anomalies that made navigators like the Pathfinders necessary for long-range interstellar travel. They reached Bardum Scoft a few minutes ahead of the captain's proposed schedule, and in a whole lot less time than a jump-by-jump trip would have taken. Other excerpts talk about the navigators sensing other navigators through the Great Presence, and much like the Force, the Great Presence is referred to as an almost sentient entity, and what the navigator does to travel long distance is very similar to what we see with Skywalkers. One interesting thing is that the Chiss are actually trying to hide the fact that they do have this ability to travel, so sometimes if they're leaving the Ascendancy, they will actually hire navigators, despite the fact that they do have Skywalkers available, which I think is pretty interesting. Anyway guys, that's all I have for the Star Wars lore video. I hope you've learned more about the unknown regions, or as the Chiss refer to it, the chaos. Sorry that there's sort of a lack of relevant visuals for this video. There's just not really a whole lot I could have included. Anyway, let me know what you think of this book if you started reading it. Try to avoid spoilers in the comments, but I'm looking to read your guys' general impressions. If not, do you plan to pick up Star Wars, Thrawn, Ascendancy, Chaos Rising Book 1? I look forward to reading all of your comments. Anyway, until next time guys, this has been your host, EckhartsLadder. Please be safe, and may the Force be with you.